Let's head over to the Suburban League National Division, where Ed Dick will go over our Week 7 recaps over in the National Division of the Suburban League.
Thanks, Rob. The playoff picture is beginning to take shape. 4 teams came into the week in playoff position. However, after an upset, that number dropped to 3. So let's take a look at the action. First, North Royalton hosted another top contender in the Suburban League National Division as the 3-3, 1-2 Bears hosted the undefeated Wadsworth Grizzlies. Like the game last week against Hudson, the Bears hung tough through the first quarter, trailing the high-powered Grizzlies 17-14 and then 24-21 just minutes into the second quarter. However, just like last week against Hudson, the Bears could not hang with another prolific offense as Wadsworth scored 3 touchdowns and added a field goal for a 48-21 lead at the half. The Grizzlies went on to a 61-28 victory, sending Medina County records along the way. West Virginia recruit and potential All-Ohio quarterback Joey Bachman completed 21 of 32 passing for 416 yards and 3 touchdowns. He also rushed 7 times for 70 yards and another 2 touchdowns. Wide receiver Mitchell Blackburn caught 12 passes for 261 yards and a touchdown. And Christian Zalay caught 5 passes for 100 yards for a touchdown. Running back Brock Snowball also scored 3 touchdowns for the Grizzlies, just like they have been all year, just putting up video game numbers for the Wadsworth Grizzlies. North Royalton quarterback Jory Marisick was 15 of 26 passing for 295 yards and 2 touchdowns. He hit Miles Sternad for 25 yards and Tyler Nurick for 16, and he also added a rushing touchdown. Jake Francic rushed for the other North Royalton score. North Royalton drops to 3-4 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They will travel to Brecksville Broadview Heights next week. Wadsworth continues their undefeated season at 7-0 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They will host Twinsburg. Winless Cuyahoga Falls travel to Hudson to take on the 5-1, 3-0 Explorers. Hudson raced out to a 38-0 lead, led by a very efficient passing effort by quarterback Cole Pillay and a balanced rushing attack by running back Kevin Callahan, Brady Ludwig, and freshman Drew Leitner. The Explorers had no trouble winning 45-7 over the Black Tigers. Pillay finished completing 5 of 7 passes for 114 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had touchdowns to Greg Bailey, Merrick Widows, and Dawson Worthy. Kevin Callahan rushed 8 times for 86 yards and a touchdown for the Explorers. For the Black Tigers, quarterback Ty Vasilati did find wide receiver Deshaun Brazil for a 10-yard touchdown, accounting for the Black Tigers' points. With the win, Hudson improves to 6-1 overall, 4-0 in the conference. They will travel to Stowe Munroe Falls. Cuyahoga Falls remains winless at 0-7 overall, 0-4 in the conference. They will travel to Macedonia Nordonia. Stowe Munroe Falls came into this contest 5-1 overall, 2-1 in the conference. They hosted a very game Twinsburg Tiger squad coming into this contest at 3-3 overall and 1-2 in the conference. Twinsburg hung with the Bulldogs early until the second quarter when Stowe quarterback Corian Rice hit wide receiver Tyler Shaver for a 38-yard touchdown pass. The Bulldogs ripped off 36 consecutive points, and they were able to put this game away with a 56-38 victory. Corian Rice, quarterback for the Bulldogs, passed for 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for 2 more. Both touchdown passes went to Paulo Gill. For the Twinsburg Tigers, quarterback Seth Grabowski threw 2 touchdowns, but also lost 3 fumbles, contributing to the additional Stowe possessions. Stowe Munroe Falls improves to 6-1 overall, 3-1 in the conference. They have a big game coming up here. They will host Hudson in Week 8, a boatload of computer points on the line here, and they're also going to look to avenge their 25-24 loss to the Explorers last year. Twinsburg drops to 3-4 overall, 1-3 in the conference. They will host league-leading Wadsworth. Lastly, winless Macedonia Nordonia traveled to the Brecksville Broadview Heights to take on the 4-2 and 2-1
the Bees
in what turned out to be the best game of the Week 7 slate. This game was back and forth throughout all 4 quarters. Nordonia, they were able to solve freshman quarterback Joe Labus, holding him to just 1 touchdown and intercepting him 3 times in what is now a breach of state law, wide receiver Sam Wiglusz was held to just 4 catches for 32 yards and no touchdowns. Running back Alec Buckley rushed 28 times for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns. However, Nordonia quarterback Robbie Levick was spectacular. He completed 18 of 28 passing for 282 yards and 4 touchdowns. He had a late touchdown pass to running back Ty Evans that led to a 30-27 victory over the
Bees.
Levick also rushed 20 times for 116 yards. Evans caught 8 passes for 148 yards and 2 touchdowns for the Knights. With the win, Nordonia is off the schneid. They improved to 1-6 overall, 1-3 in the conference. The Knights will host Cuyahoga Falls in Week 8. Brecksville Broadview Heights drops to 4-3 overall, 2-2 in the conference. And right now they are out of the playoff picture at the moment in Division II, Region 5. The Bees will host North Royalton in Week 8. As far as the offensive output and the players of the week this week, I can't ignore. You can really. Joey Bachman, probably for all intents and purposes, between him and Sam Wiglusz, probably deserve this every week. But I think Bachman legit deserves it this time around. 27 to 32 or 21 to 32 passing, 416 yards, 3 touchdowns, another 70 yards on the ground, and 2 more touchdowns. He had almost 500 yards of total offense and 5 touchdowns. So congratulations to Joey Bachman. I also want to highlight Grizzly receiver Mitchell Blackburn, 12 catches for 261 yards and 1 touchdown. And then Nordonia quarterback Robbie Levick, he accounted for almost 400 yards on his own, 282 yards passing, 116 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns for Levick, getting the Knights their first win in the 2017 campaign. So a lot of blowouts and the one close game. I've been waiting all year for Nordonia to put it together. They had a really good offensive team coming back, and they finally put it together against the team who's competing for a playoff spot.
Yep.
So I want to say congratulations to Nordonia for getting their first win, and we'll break down the numbers and the playoff stats a hell of a lot more next week. But we do have some more business to tend to. I'm going to shoot it over quickly to my cohort, my colleague, my compadre,
your bees.
Sean Duffy is
your
going
bees
to,
friend.
Sean Duffy is going to handle the Suburban League American Division.
Thank you, Ed. And before we get started, we want to go ahead and say that our game of the week last week was Aurora and Highland, so we'll get to that game. Great game, probably the best game we had all week. Very good game, but we'll start off with Barberton hosting St. Vincent St. Mary. This is a big game for Barberton. Powerhouse team coming in. Barberton looking to make a statement, and boy, did they. Barberton ended up winning this game 35-14 on the back of wide receiver Key Thompson. The kid did everything but give out water, and I'm pretty sure if I would have been there to see it, he was helping his teammates out with water as well. He caught passes, ran the ball, intercepted passes, made tackles, returned punts, and he even threw 2, not 1, but 2 50-yard touchdown passes to Garrett Turnbull. The guy had 100 yards passing. To say that is that, just to give you an idea, quarterback Zane Reese went 16 of 21 for 137 yards and a touchdown. Key Thompson, 2 for 2, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. Thompson would finish the game with 7 receptions for 63 yards and a touchdown catch himself, along with 12 carries and 30 yards. Now, one thing you wanted to say here is that Barberton never trailed in this game. St. Vincent St. Mary came in, scored early, but the defense locked it down and pitched a shutout in the second half. So basically, Barberton cruised to a relatively easy victory over a very, very good St. Vincent St. Mary team. They are locked into the second position in their region. Looking to continue, hopefully get that number 1 seed. They will travel to take on Talmadge in Week 8. And guys, when I saw this on the schedule earlier this year, I'm like, oh, that might be a blowout. But guys, Talmadge is a game team. They traveled to Copley, and they went into Copley, and they imposed their will on the Indians. They had a huge road victory, and it was all led by running back Ty Shannon. He rushed for 205 yards on 28 carries and 2 touchdowns. He also was a big part of their defense, helping in the backfield as well as making really, really crucial tackles. The defense, as I mentioned, only surrendered one touchdown on the night, which was a 65-yard run by Copley running back Blake Traylor. Talmadge's defense held Copley to 63 yards passing the entire night. Traylor for Copley would finish with 157 yards and a touchdown on the evening. Now, Talmadge is currently second in Division III, Region 9. They host Barberton in Week 8. So now we have a very, very serious matchup that has not only conference implications, but playoff implications for both of these teams in Barberton and Talmadge. Copley will look to rebound in Week 8 as they host Highland, coming off a very tough game, and we'll get to that in our Game of the Week breakdown. My next game and my final game in the American Division is Revere and Kent Roosevelt. And, guys, this was a back-and-forth game all night. Revere held a 20-19 lead late in the game, but Roosevelt was able to use a late touchdown reception from Jerron Browder to secure a Week 7 victory. Jerron Browder finished the night with 7 catches, 153 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So as Browder went, the Kent Roosevelt Rough Riders went. Revere's Matt Busser did not shrink from the spotlight either, as he pitched in 252 yards and a couple touchdowns as well, but it wasn't enough to secure the victory on the road at Roosevelt. Revere will look to bounce back in Week 8 as they travel to Aurora, and Kent Roosevelt has a non-conference matchup with Columbia Crestview in Week 8 as well. So, guys, big thing here is Roosevelt and Revere are two teams that are at essentially the bottom of the division standings right now, but they were playing for pride, and that was a very back-and-forth game. Hats off to my conference player of the week, and that is Roosevelt's Jerron Browder. 3 touchdowns, caught the winning pass. I'm going to give him the chocolate milk. I want to touch on one other game, as we always do. Buckeye hosting Black River. Big rivalry here for this game here, and Buckeye just continues to roll. They are unblemished. They have a big road victory against Black River. They won 28-12. It's the same old story, same old song and dance for the Buckeye Bucks. Quarterback Adam Favre led the Bucks with 16 carries, 64 yards, 2 touchdowns. He went 5 for 7 for 94 yards and a touchdown. Dominic Monaco had 13 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. The Buckeye defense continued to be stingy and opportunistic, forcing key turnovers that prevented Black River from even thinking about mounting a comeback. Now, Buckeye will need to play the same type of game because they travel to Firelands next week, and Firelands is a state-ranked team, and this is going to be a big matchup for not only Buckeye, but for Firelands as well. So this is going to be a good game, and I'm looking forward to doing the recap on that one next week. Guys, that's it from the American Division. We're going to go into the game of the week, and me and Josh were there. Josh almost lost his phone. He had no battery at one point, but it was a great game. We'll tell you all about it when we come back after this break. We'll talk to you later.
Nice word. We'll be right back.
of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Want to get involved with Sports on Tap on social media? Go to Twitter and follow Sports on Tap at SOT Podcast, or go to Facebook, facebook.com/SOT Podcast.
For the best coverage of Cavs, Indians, and Browns, check out NEOSportsInsiders.com. NEOSportsInsiders.com brings you breaking news, opinions, and video from all things related to your favorite Cleveland sports teams. Like us on Facebook and follow at NEO Sports Insiders on Twitter for live updates from all the games. NEOSportsInsiders.com, bringing you the best in Northeast Ohio sports coverage.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Get involved with Sports on Tap on social media. Follow them on Twitter at SOT Podcast, or go to Facebook. Want to email the show? sportsontap.podcast@gmail.com.
Can't wait for the next Sports on Tap podcast to drop? Then stay connected with us on social media. You can follow us on Twitter at SOT Podcast and like our page at facebook.com/SOT Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Sports on Tap on YouTube and iTunes and email us at sportsontappodcast@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out Josh Jeffy's six-pack of random and our full show archives on neosportsinsiders.com.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. neosportsinsiders.com.
Sports on Tap is your source for local high school sports talk in Northeast Ohio. Hear from your favorite teams, coaches, and players, and stay up to date with all the high school action no matter the season. Catch Sports on Tap live on Mixler or find past shows archived on neosportsinsiders.com, sportsontap.podcast.podomatic.com, and on iTunes and YouTube. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.
You're listening to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. neosportsinsiders.com.
Join Sports on Tap for live broadcasts at Z's Cream and Bean from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Come see the faces behind the voices you hear on the podcast and hear from local athletes and coaches about their teams, seasons, and conferences. Enjoy delicious ice cream and milkshakes and join in on the fun at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. The Sports on Tap podcast, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network.
Welcome back to Sports on Tap. It's our high school football coverage, Week 7 recap. And before we get to the head coach of the Highland Hornets, Coach Mike Gibbons, we're going to give our Game of the Week coverage where Sean and Josh ventured to Highland High School, where the Highland Hornets took on and hosted the Aurora Greenmen, in which was a great conference battle. That really both teams back and forth. It wasn't a crazy offensive game, but
it was.
Give us some details here, guys.
Well, first of all, that was my first time and Sean's first time at the Highland facility out there. And it was homecoming as well. Very nice stadium, very nice setup. They do things really well at Highland, so we appreciate all their work there. But you talked about this being a very important conference matchup, and it was. And it was a highly intense battle. The fans were into it. There was quite a few Aurora fans who made the trip. The Highland student section was color coordinated into it. So very good atmosphere. As Sean will discuss here when he goes over the recap, unfortunately, the end of the game probably wasn't the best outcome. But
it wasn't the cleanest outcome.
Right, but still enough. Very exciting game, very intense.
Yes, and you know what? It's funny you mentioned it was very intense, but it didn't start out that way. In fact, the first quarter of this game was very much a defensive battle. No team could really get on the schedule. A lot of penalties, a lot of miscues, a lot of drop passes. And also really good defense on both sides. Aurora's defense understood they needed to stop Jake Rogers in the running back, and they needed to corral wide receiver Jake Sir Lewis, as well as quarterback Matthew Ernest. And they did that in the first quarter. In fact, they actually caused 2 fumbles in the first quarter. One, they ended up getting it around midfield, and they couldn't capitalize on that. Then the second one, just as the first quarter was coming to an end, Linebacker Brent Henderson recovered a fumble and took it 33 yards for a score as time ran out in the first quarter. So Aurora was up 7-0 and at the end of the first quarter, kind of shocking everybody in Highland. But Highland did not waste much time on the on behind. They were able to tie it with a 69-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Ernest to wide receiver Jake Sir Lewis, and the momentum continued to tilt in the favor of the Hornets thanks to a 74-yard punt return for a touchdown by Jake Rogers. So just before you know it, Aurora's riding a pretty good feeling into the second quarter, and just like that, Highland seizes the lead 14-7. As the second quarter progressed, Aurora was able to execute their 2-minute offense and march right down the field and secure a 36-yard field goal from Robbie Albrecht, and Highland took a 14-10 lead into the half. Now, the third quarter began with Highland forcing an Aurora punt and marching 75 yards down the field to score on a 20-yard touchdown pass from Ernest to Sir Lewis, their second of the night. Highland is now leading 21-10 midway through the third quarter. Aurora immediately responded thanks to a 71-yard touchdown run from quarterback Colin McNamara, but a failed two-point conversion made the score 21-16 in favor of the Hornets. The Aurora defense again made a huge impact on the game, intercepting Matthew Ernest's pass, setting up the Greenmen deep inside Hornet territory. Aurora would score 3 plays later on a 7-yard touchdown run from Brent Henderson, his second of the night, but another failed two-point attempt and conversion made the score 22-21 at the end of the third quarter. Now, the fourth quarter was, and I wrote this on my article, it was a roller coaster of emotion, and it was just that. Coupled with the fact that, again, I want to make it clear that Josh was watching with bated breath his phone regarding the Indians game, but also I'm trying to get him to understand we got a game going here. It's 22-21.
Listen, I was paying attention.
You were paying attention. That's right. Absolutely. But the fourth quarter, again, roller coaster of emotion. Highlands defense was able to force an Aurora fumble, which in turn gave the Hornets excellent field position. But costly penalty, coupled with a smothering Aurora defense, forced a missed field goal attempt from Highland, and Aurora still hung on to a 22-21 lead heading into the last 3 minutes of the game. Now, Highland started with the ball on their own 31-yard line, and they were able to move the ball down the field. They utilized Sir Lewis and Ryan Frederick to get big chunk yardage and got them into the red zone all the way down to the Aurora 5-yard line. Here's where things go a little bit awry in my view, and I think a view of pretty much everybody unless you're an Aurora Greenmen fan. After Rogers ran for no gain on first and goal from the Aurora 5, Ernest rolled out to the pocket to his right and was towards this, probably well outside the tackle box we established, almost to the sideline of Highland, and saw that his 2 receivers in the end zone were completely covered, so chucked it out of bounds. Now, we thought, okay, we were standing in the end zone, or behind the end zone, and we thought, okay, they're going to go back and run a third down play. All of a sudden, we see a yellow flag on the field, and the referee calls intentional grounding, loss of down. So now instead of 3rd and goal, it's 4th and goal plus penalty yardage. So it moved it back 10 yards. So it made it now, I believe, a 32-yard field goal instead of a 33-yard field goal instead of a 22-yard field goal. So, and now keep in mind, this kicker had already missed a field goal earlier in the game. And this was on the right hash as well, so it wasn't dead on. It was on the right hash. Unfortunately, Highlands kicker, sophomore Justin Tepes, got enough. He kicked the ball just fine. He had plenty of leg on it, but it just, as soon as it started kicking, it started inching its way to the right, and he missed the wide right with only 6 seconds left on the clock. Aurora escaped Highland with a 22-21 victory. And the talk of the town and the talk of the game was the interesting intentional grounding call that I cannot explain for the life of me. We talked with the AD after the game, and we mentioned, is there something that you can do as far as, bringing that to the conference? He mentioned he could, bring it up in the conference to the commissioner for training purposes. I just don't know how you missed that call in that stage of the game. I mean, you got to know the rules. And maybe if I'm wrong, but Highland's wearing all black. Aurora's wearing all white. There were black shirts in the end zone. He was well outside of the tackle box. To me, it was just throwing the ball away like every quarterback is taught and every quarterback does at every level. But unfortunately, Highland had to swallow a bitter pill there in homecoming and lost a tough game. Now, here's the thing. This doesn't really, the loss is especially tough for Highland, but it doesn't mean that they are out of the playoff picture. They don't control their own destiny. In fact, according to Joe Itel, they fell to 5th in their region, but they have the old control their own destiny. So what they need to do is put that heartbreaking loss back and continue to do what they've been doing. Now, the one thing they're going to focus on, I imagine this week, is ball security and execution and making clean, fundamental football. Because if you ask anybody, the penalties and the turnovers are what? Aurora had 7 points off of turnovers at least, and they had an opportunity for more. So, that's one of the things I saw that night was any team, if you control the ball, you don't turn the ball over, you don't put yourself in a position to lose. So, unfortunately, Aurora, again, I'm not unfortunately for Aurora, good for them. They played defense. They did exactly what they needed to do.
Great game.
They capitalized when they could. They got helped out by some penalties, one way or another. But, and for Highland, they got to rebound from this and continue moving forward because they still got a shot for the conference and they still got a shot for home field advantage in the playoffs.
Yeah, and we'll learn firsthand here shortly a little bit more about the Highland Hornets. So, like you said, you guys saw a great game out there.
It's a fantastic game.
It's a newer field that they have there, and they
great
always
stadium.
get a great amount of support. And now let's go to the Sports on Tap hotline, where right now we have head coach of the Highland Hornets, Mike Gibbons, joining us. And, Coach, thanks for taking time to join us tonight. Coach, so far this season, what a great season your team has had. You had a little bump in the road against Aurora, but talk a little bit about the season you guys have had so far.
Yeah, it's been a great year. We have 26 seniors on our football program, and, they're doing an outstanding job. There's a lot of obvious experience returning here with these guys. They played a lot of football, so going into the year, we knew that we could kind of lean on that, and they've definitely stepped up to the challenges so far, and had a tough one last week, but we're going to bounce back here.
Coach, one of the things that's been a surprise all year for you and as following your team is the play of Jake Rogers. I don't think this guy can. There's nothing he can't do from a football standpoint. I was waiting for him to come out and give kids water at during timeouts. Talk a little bit about his progression because he's not playing a natural position at running back. He's had to replace Brent Ponikvar, who's injured. How is he that transition for him?
Yeah, Jake's a special player. I always tell people that it's like having 3 players in one. His ability on offense to create some explosive plays, and then defensively, he always covers the other team's best receiver. And is really a good shutdown corner for us. And then special teams, his ability to return punts and kickoffs. He returned a punt the other night for a touchdown, and it's becoming pretty consistent when he's back there. The sight of him at least going all the way for a touchdown. So he's a great young man. Works extremely hard. Very gifted. He's not the biggest kid in the world, but he's pretty devastating out there on the field. So glad we have him. And we moved him to running back, and it's probably not his natural position. He's probably more slot receiver, but we had like you said, Brent Ponikvar went down with a torn ACL. So he's doing a great job at running back too. So it's really, you put him anywhere, and he's gonna be a full player.
Hey, Coach, this is Ed here. Just wanted to, in looking at, traditionally Medina Highland, you've really brought this, you've really brought the Hornets up to a great level here. I mean, your non-conference schedule, you played Brunswick, Medina, and a very tough North Royalton team. These are teams that this program really hasn't faced in the past. But since your arrival, you've taken on these teams and you've had some very good success. Now, talk a little bit about how that part of the non-conference schedule has evolved for you.
Yeah, I think you want to challenge your team every year, and we felt that going out there and playing Brunswick and playing Medina and North Royalton as our non-league games would be a heck of a challenge, and it certainly was, and we were glad we were able to win those games. But yeah, I guess you're just looking for teams that are going to challenge your guys. And that certainly happened, and glad we were able to win, and we're looking forward to the future. We get to play them again.
You know, looking at your schedule upcoming, how do you get your kids to really focus after, you lose 22-21 to Aurora, but you face some good teams coming up with Copley, Talmadge, and Barberton. How do you get the kids to really put that in the rear view and focus on the next game against Copley?
Yeah, well, I think the best thing to do is to get back to work. It was obviously a tough game Friday night, and going through the film on Saturday, obviously everyone's kind of feeling that pain. But it definitely felt good to get back on the practice field today and, start practicing and get ready for another great opponent in Copley. And they present a lot of challenges that we got to prepare for. So kind of move on from, whether you like the results or you did not like the results of the previous week. You get for the next one. And that's kind of been our mantra all year long is, we're really never going to get too excited with what we do or really too down with what we do. It's on to the next thing. So that's kind of where our heads are at right now.
Hey, Coach, we spent some time talking about Jake Rogers specifically at length. I've obviously seen some film for you guys, and I've seen you guys up close and personal and what some of your other players are capable of doing. Who are some of the other players that have really made an impact on your team this year, both offensively and defensively?
Well, I think offensively, Matthew Ernest, our quarterback, a 2-year starter. He's thrown for over 1,100 yards this year. He's got the great ability to throw the ball and run the ball. Really executes our offense. He has to make a lot of reads, both in the run game and the pass game. We're reading defensive ends a lot in our run game, and he puts us in good position that way, and then throwing the ball as well. Making accurate passes and not turning the ball over. So Matt Ernest has had a great year for us. Defensively, Ryan Frederick is our strong safety. He's a good long player. He's 6'2", about 85. He's able to play the run and the pass equally well. And then he's also our tight end on offense. So he's another senior leader that is a 3-year starter and is having a good year for us. And so those are a couple of our guys on offense and defense.
Coach, one of the things I noticed, when Josh and I were at the game on Friday night, was really the community is really rallied around your team. There really is a lot of excitement out there. We saw it was palpable, throughout that whole game. And even more palpable after that questionable call in the fourth quarter. But it's talk a little bit about how the community's responded to how good this team has been playing over the last couple of years, and what kind of support you're getting from the Highland community.
Yeah, I tell you what, it's amazing support at Highland, all the way from the time these kids are in youth all the way till they're in high school. There's so much support from the families and the community at Highland and the schools. So it makes it fun for Friday nights. I think it's, especially with the new stadium, it brings everyone together. That's the place to be on Friday nights. It's always fun to go ahead and look up the crowd during the game if you get a second and see all the people that are there to support these kids. And the players work so hard and they put so much into it. So it's great to see that they're rewarded with all that support from the community. And we know that's going to keep going, and hopefully we can win some games here down the stretch and get in the playoffs for them too.
With all the success you've had so far, have you had even a better turnout in players coming out for the team? It seems like Highland always gets a lot of great kids to come out and has had a lot of success. With that success, do you guys get more and more players each year coming out to be on the team?
Yeah, it's numbers are pretty good. This senior class has 26 players, so it's a really good class that way from a number standpoint. So we actually might take a little dip next year in numbers, but we have a great youth program at Highland. A lot of kids are involved in that. And our 8th grade team, they had lost one game, and then our 7th grade team lost one game. The youth programs are all doing a great job. So from top all the way down, seems like the thing's headed in the right direction, and we're just trying to promote football as best we can within the school system, and with the youth camps and the youth clinics and all that stuff, just keep everybody involved. And like I mentioned, the community's very into football. They love it. They're very passionate about it. So it's always exciting to be around.
Hey, Coach, this is your third year as the head coach at Highland. A couple of years at Beechwood, and then of course the 3 years at Brunswick that you and I were there together. Being that this is your second stop and you're 5 years into your head coaching career, how have things, how have you changed, or how you handle things now that you're, for all intents and purposes, a veteran as a head coach, as opposed to your first couple of years at Beechwood?
Yeah, it's all such a learning process, I guess. When you become a head coach, you have this vision of where you want things to go, but you really, I guess, don't know until you experience all these things. I've been blessed to be at Brunswick, which was a very big school, and then go to a smaller school in Beechwood and see, just coaching kids where maybe the numbers weren't that big, and then, going back to Highland, which is a Division II program. So, being challenged, I guess, in different ways is kind of helped evolve me as a coach. Again, I'm still learning every week, every day, just trying to do the best that I can. But it's been fun. It's been a fun ride. I wouldn't change anything, and just continue to learn and try to grow as a coach.
Well, Coach, we appreciate you coming on our show and talking to us a little bit about the Highland football program. We know you have 3 games left in the season, so best of luck the rest of the year. You've had a great season so far. Keep it going, and thanks for coming on our show tonight.
Thanks for having me. It means a lot.
Hey, Coach, one more question. Mount Union going to take the title this year?
Absolutely, yeah. They're going to get back on track this year.
Yes, sir. That's what I like to hear. Please give my regards to Mr. Gribble, Mr. Musel, and Mr. Fritz as well, please.
I will do. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Coach Gibbons.
Thanks.
That's head coach of the Highland Hornets, Coach Mike Gibbons, and what a great job he has done with that Highland program. They've always been a really tough team. They know how to get it done when it comes to playoff time and during the season. And they're very much still involved in the playoff pictures. One loss, versus a very good Aurora team that's trying to fight for the playoffs themselves. So, want to thank him for joining us here tonight. And a big show for Sports on Tap here.
2 guests on a Monday.
And we're right on track time-wise,
Shouts out to
too.
Ed Dick for making a lot of this possible, booking
Way to
Pinzoni
be, Ed.
and Gibbons. Reaching into
more heads up to them. They were in much better positions than I am, and we were able to interview them.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think it's pretty cool that for Highland specifically, now between them and Wadsworth, they're the class of Medina County, which were for a long time. That was Brunswick. Wadsworth has been there before, but Highland is now up there, and Wadsworth. You can see in those, I guess, the smaller in terms of division ranking teams starting to really build up, and they're playing the D1 programs, and they're beating them. So they're setting their own ways. They're paving their own streets, and things are going well for them, and it's exciting to see, definitely.
And you also look at that area, and that's rich in this department or in this area with football. I mean, that's a good football county. As good as I would say on par with Cuyahoga, with Lake, with anyone. There's a lot of talent in Medina County, and you see it even with Buckeye. I mean, Buckeye's right there, and they're really dominating in their division. So I mean, I think the future holds bright, and I think Coach Gibbons is doing a great job with that team. And he touched on it there early on. He says, "Look, we got to look at the film. We got to feel bad on Saturday, but we're back. We got to beat Copley. This week we got Barberton at the end of the year, and that's
you got Talmadge in there too.
Yeah, and you got a Talmadge team that's
what a tough
that's
end of
knocking
the
on the
season.
door. I mean, if Talmadge can shock the world and beat Barberton next week, then Highland's right back in that race. They have an opportunity to take the conference at that point. Because they're and again Aurora's there. So I mean, I think the conference is setting itself apart. It's kind of there's what we thought it would be, with the surprise being Talmadge. I think from a playoff standpoint, I think Aurora has a lot of work to do, and they're going to need a lot of help. They need to take care of business, and they need to have some of these teams that they beat beat some teams. They need Highland to continue winning because that makes that win look even better. And they need, they need some help. And hats off to the Aurora Greenmen for responding after a big loss to Barberton the week before, and then coming in on the road. I mean, back-to-back on the road against Barberton and Highland. That's a tall task for anybody. So, I mean, kudos to them for being able to stem the tide and win that. So,
well, and Aurora has to win out. I mean, they play a 2-5 Revere team, a 3-4 Copley team. Then they play Mifflin. They're 6-1, but they do have that big win at Talmadge. That's their only loss of the year. So, they really need to win out here, like you said, and then they'll probably need maybe some help there. But it's going to be interesting to see how this season, and that's why you love high school football.
That's why they play the game. But that was last week's game of the week. Let's preview this week's game of the week.
Yeah, real quick.
Guess what? I think we're going back to a place that Josh and I spent quality time together last year. We are going to Midview to watch Midview Olmsted Falls battle it out for SWC supremacy, perhaps?
Well, Avon's in first right now. Then you have Olmsted Falls and Midview fighting for second place right there, which is pretty important with spots. Midview's right now ranked third in Region 6?
Yes.
Division 2, Region 6. So they're right now in third, and I believe, looking at where Olmsted Falls is, I believe they're sixth right now. So, that would be an absolute huge win for Olmsted Falls if they could get a big win at Midview, which is a really tough place to play. Obviously, Midview, a great facility.
It's a fun atmosphere to watch a football game
at. But that's going to be a good one, especially, both schools travel well. So, Olmsted Falls fans are going to come out for that, and it's going to be a fun game to watch.
So it'll be myself and Josh out there roaming the sidelines. Hopefully Josh brings a backup battery or something.
I'll have it fully charged before we go, I promise.
He's a busy guy. I mean, this guy works social media like I've never seen.
He's not the king of social media for nothing. I get it.
I'll have to make sure it's charged because, Indians will win the series, even though it's not looking good right now.
That's right. It's early still.
Game 1 of the ALCS is Friday. So
okay.
Real quick, we'll go to our obligatory Cincinnati-Dayton area roundup here. The Fayetteville Rockets have hit a little bit of a rough patch in their schedule here. They take a 32-22 loss last week to East Clinton. That drops Fayetteville Perry, the Rockets, to 4-3 on their season for head coach Kevin Finch, my brother-in-law. Next week, they have a very winnable game against Williamsburg. They're going to be coming into the contest at 1-6. So hopefully this will be a game where Fayetteville can get back on track, right the ship. As Coach Benzoni said, if you go 2-3 weeks without a win in your column, it's tough to recover from that. They experienced some very good highs already, winning 4 in a row. Right now they're at a 3-game losing streak. We'll see if they can get back into the left side of the ledger this week against Williamsburg.
And my alma mater, the Vandalia Butler Aviators, suffered a tough loss to the Troy Trojans, 20-36 in Week 7. It's been a up and down year for the Aviators. They travel this week to take on a 4-3 Piqua team, and let me just say this: if for those of you that are listening, there's one team that I don't like. I don't like their town. I don't like their faces. I don't like their logo.
Now you're getting.
Everyone says that the rivalry has always been Butler Northmont. Yeah, not when I was in high school. The rivalry was Butler Piqua. So guys, let's beat them. Let's go into their place.
Maybe they need a little Sean Duffy luck. They need you to show up.
I'm not going to Piqua. Why would I go to Piqua?
I don't know. Spark your team to a win. I don't know.
It's like 4 hours away.
All right.
But
good luck to the
Go in
Aviators.
there and burn their house down. Let's do this.
Wow. All right. He's getting deep here on Sports on Tap.
And Sports on Tap does not condone arson of any kind.
Yeah, I don't condone arson. It's a figure of speech.
Yeah, I got you.
Metaphorical arson.
Well, I want to thank Coach Gibbons of Highland, the Highland Hornets, to come on our show, and also from the Brunswick Blue Devils, Coach Mark Pinzoni, for joining us tonight. Great bunch of guests, and great job, guys, for our Week 7 recaps.
Yep, looking forward to it. And Tribe down 5-2 now in the bottom of the fourth inning.
A lot of game left.
We did this last week, and it worked for them, so we're going to do it again. We're going to give them some little good
Let's
karma.
do it.
Next week, we'll look forward to some playoff talk next week.
That's right.
As we get week 8 will be concluded by the end of next week, so we'll have a lot to talk about as far as playoffs are concerned for each of our respective conferences.
Yeah.
And you want to hear Ed crunching numbers because this is just impressive. So join us next week for our Week 8 recaps, or Week 7 recaps, and then we'll also give you crunch numbers on where the playoff picture looks with Joe Itell. All right, we're Sports on Tap. I want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Rob Troutman. For Ed Dick, Sean Duffy, Josh Jeffy, we'll see you later. Have a great week, everyone. Good luck to everybody playing on Friday.
And go Tribe.
Go Tribe.
Ugh.